All right, what's up YouTube family? Today I have a really awesome video. I'm going to discuss why you cannot improve your SAT and ACT scores. Now, I want to preface this video with a big disclaimer. The disclaimer is I'm going to be extremely frank and honest in this video because that's what it takes to improve your SAT, ACT score drastically. So please, please, please do not take offense to anything that I say here. I'm being honest only to help you. So that said, let's get into these high-level tips on how to improve your SAT and ACT score. Let's go. All right, so let's go a little bit into human psychology. That's the first point I want to make on why some people really struggle to improve their SAT, ACT scores. Now, the reason that I say that is one of the things that it's been proven that's really difficult for humans to do is self-analysis. Perfect example, right? You write an essay, it's really hard for you as the writer of that essay to proofread it, right? Because you think that the things that you put out are correct, right? You tend to have an inflated view of how awesome you are. Now, that said, that is extremely detrimental to your performance and improvement on the SAT, ACT, and I'll explain why. All right, so like I was saying, humans truly struggle with self-analysis and honesty with themselves, right? And that's something that I would say that I've become good at over time, right? I wasn't always good at that. And I realized that I'm not perfect. No one is, right? It's not possible to be. And once you realize that, you're one step closer to saying, okay, so since I'm making these mistakes, now I can figure out how to fix them. And that's what it really takes to drastically improve your SAT, ACT score is a self-analysis, right? So that's my next point. The next reason that people don't improve their SAT, ACT score greatly is that they don't have the right diagnostic tools. Now, one thing that we have and that I've developed is a way to analyze student performance on SATs and ACTs. Now, what we do with our students is we give them diagnostic tests, and those diagnostic tests break down in great detail how a student performs. Now, that can really help you take the first step towards improvement because what you can recognize is, wow, I really got all of the punctuation questions wrong in this test, or I really got all of the geometry questions wrong. Right? And now I can say that's a specific area that I need to work on. I got all of the circle questions wrong within geometry. That means I need to study those formulas, right? So that's one kind of simple way that a lot of students miss out on. Those resources are available online. Those resources are available through companies like mine. Everyone should try to look out for something like that and use that to improve their score. That said, it's not as simple as, okay, now I just have like a diagnostic report or something like that and my score is going to go up wildly. It doesn't work that way, right? You need the self-analysis, right? You're able to look at yourself and say, okay, I'm not perfect. These are the mistakes I'm making. You need to know what mistakes you're making and then you need to know how to fix them. So that's another point that I'll get to later. So you definitely want to watch the entirety of this video because I'm going to get to how to fix the problems later, but right now I'm going to talk about how to identify them. All right, so one of the other problems that students come across in improving their standardized test scores is motivators, right? A lot of students feel that I just don't have the self-motivation to succeed on this. And that, that plagues people throughout their lives. Not everyone, can put in 14-hour work days or, grind at school for, 6, 7, 8 years to get a grad degree or become a doctor, right? Those things are hard, right? Some people just don't necessarily need to achieve a 1500 on the SAT. And my point is, if the motivations for that kind of score are parents or outside forces, that's not really a great motivator. The real motivator is internal. Self-motivation is the strongest motivator, and that can help you achieve your highest score. Now, the next extension of that question, of course, is, well, how do I achieve that self-motivation? That's kind of a tough one to answer, but at the end of the day, you need to find what motivates you. For me, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but when I was in college, something that would always motivate me was a good workout. If I had to, buckle down and do a lot of work, I would, go for a run and throw on like the Rocky theme before I went out and jogged 4 or 5 miles. And I'd come back to my dorm and then I'd be mentally ready to proceed with work. Something about that cleared my mind. What you guys have to do is find what works for you. But, at the end of the day, it might be music, it might be some other motivator, like you can get yourself pumped up to study and to proceed with studying for the exam. Now, that said, like back to my other point, you don't want your parents to be the main motivator, because if they're pushing you towards doing this, then that can work, of course, but it may not achieve the highest score. The students that I've seen that have scored 36s and close to 1600 have always wanted it for themselves. You have to want it. You have to find that within yourself. I think the next thing you could do on top of that is like train yourself. Like if you set a specific study time, a specific study schedule, I'm going to complete this test this week, this test that week, I'm going to study this and that at certain times, then you have a much better chance of succeeding in motivating yourself to complete something. If it's just totally random, then it's much more difficult to get set on the right path. So one thing I would implore all students to do is try to set a schedule or a study plan for themselves, and then your chance of succeeding is much, much higher. All right, the next thing that you might be doing if you can't improve your SAT, ACT score is simply taking the wrong test. Like back to the diagnostic exam, if you look at the two scores before you really start, jumping into studying, and you see, well, my SAT score is much better than my ACT score, then you probably want to go the SAT route. I have another awesome video on my channel about the differences between the two tests and how to pick out which one's better for you. Check that one out. But at the end of the day, if you're doing the wrong test, or you're, God forbid, trying both tests at the same time, then you might have too much on your plate and you might be making it too difficult to improve. All right, the next mistake you're probably making if you're not improving your SAT, ACT score is a very simple one. You must time yourself. You have to, right? So many students take their time, they do bits and pieces of work, they chip away at it, which is great, but then they go and take the real test and they have not timed themselves. And that kills me, because they always call me and say, hey, Nick the Tutor, my SAT score on practice exams was a 1500, and then I went in on the test and I only got a 1270. What's up? And then I say, all right, did you finish all the questions? Oh, actually, I only finished 40%. Well, of course, if you only finish half of the test, your score is not going to be as good. Now, how do you address that? You time yourself. One of the things we've done is we created an awesome SAT, ACT timer video that you guys can check out to make sure that you're timing yourself on all of your homework assignments. Now, I don't mean just taking diagnostic tests. I mean diagnostic tests, homework assignments for specific questions, even individual passages. You would know this from my other video that on the SAT, you get 13 minutes per reading passage. On the ACT, you get 8 minutes and 45 seconds per reading passage. If you don't have a lot of time, set that timer, 8 minutes and 45 seconds, and let's go. Let's do it, right? Make sure you have the timing down. This is the one that literally kills me, because I get this phone call 15 times a year, and it tears my heart out because someone along the lines didn't instruct the student to time themselves. So if I can't make that more clear, you have to time yourself. All right, guys, I'm going to get into a little bit more about timing in a second. I just wanted to add, my last point is absolutely mind-blowing. It's a simple thing that students do that they make mistakes on, so you want to make sure that you watch this video to the end. You definitely check out that last point. It's crazy. That said, more about timing, right? I sometimes call myself a track coach. I have a stopwatch. It's not a real stopwatch. I just use a computer app, and I actually time students not only down to passages, but down to individual questions, right? Because what you can do there is realize, okay, this student's score is not improving because they're getting stuck on certain questions for 2, 3, 4 minutes. If you're talking about the ACT, if you spend 2 minutes on one reading question, you have absolutely no chance of finishing that passage in time, right? What you should do is, use a stopwatch timer on your phone, or you can use a real stopwatch or whatever you want to do, and time each passage out to make sure that you're balancing out to the right timing structure of the exam. I cannot stress that enough. The other thing you could do is get a watch, right? Doesn't matter if it's a fancy watch. This is a regular $200 watch. They make SAT, ACT timer watches even better. You get those on Amazon. I'm gonna add the link in my bio. Somehow I should probably get paid by this company because I send so many people there. But basically for $40, you can get a watch specifically made to time the SAT or the ACT, and better yet, it's totally legal, so you don't have to worry about any problems. So there's so many things you can do to combat the timing. I share all of that information with my customers and my students. I'm sharing with my whole YouTube family right now. So all of you, make sure you do that. The next thing you're probably doing that's negatively affecting your SAT, ACT score is you're not grading yourself. So many students cower in fear of what will happen if they actually grade their scores and find out their score on the test. You have to know, right? You have to take the information that you're given and say, okay, my score here is not good. My score there is not good. This I'm doing a great job on. This I'm not doing a great job on. Now, that's something that a diagnostic test can help with, but even students doing their work at home, I notice they tend to say, okay, I feel like I did pretty well on that, and they might go over it a little bit, but they don't actually sit down and take the scale and take the raw score and match it up to the scale and say to myself, okay, I need to face the facts that I just got a 500 on the English portion of the SAT, and I'm looking for a 700. I'm not even close. That can be a great motivator. You have to look at these things as a positive, right? Okay, so I just have to improve. That's it, right? I just have to. Now, a lot of students kind of just look at it as a, oh my God, well, you know, how am I going to change things? And what if I tell my parent? All that needs to just be removed. And we just need to look at the facts as this way, okay, this is what I need to do to improve. I need to be frank with myself. I need to be honest with myself. And then I can attack and crush this test. Trust me, all of you can improve. You can. The issue is if you don't address improvement and how to make it happen, then you're constantly just, you know, spinning your wheels and not getting anywhere. I don't want that to happen. So my huge point there is you must grade yourself and you must know where you're at. So if you're working with someone like myself, I can help you. If you're studying on your own, you can help yourself. Way that you can figure something out. All right, the next thing that really separates the students that get great score improvements from the students that don't would be practice tests. I've discussed this a few times, diagnostic tests. Now, I don't mean just one in the beginning. I mean taking them every week, like a study plan, every week, every other week, really digging deep and doing every SAT or ACT that exists in a timed fashion. If you do that, you will absolutely rock the test. Now, obviously, I could throw out a whole bunch of statistics about students that have done this and improved. Look, statistically, we've analyzed thousands and thousands of student scores, and the students that take more diagnostic practice tests get better score improvements than the students that don't. It's that simple, right? It's literally that simple. I cannot say it any more clearly. If you take more practice tests, you will get a better score than the students that don't. That's it. You have to do it. So my last point, which I said was going to be extremely helpful, is this. And this is the part where, you know, the frankness comes into play. I know I gave, you know, a disclaimer or a warning for this video that, you know, some people might be offended. I hope that you haven't been thus far. I've been trying to be helpful. But my last point is, you know, goes back to my first point, which is human nature. I've noticed that humans simply don't want to accept when they don't know something, right? Students want to hang on to kind of knowing a formula or kind of understanding it, or say understanding it enough to appease a high school teacher, or, you know, to get a 90 on a test. To do well on the SAT and the ACT, you need to have a deep understanding of how to use formulas. You need to understand how they work, how to apply them, and you need to have them fully memorized. That goes for grammar rules, that goes for strategies, for reading comp, and for writing, for anything. You need to have full understanding and comprehension. Students love to hang on to like kind of knowing the quadratic equation or kind of knowing the formula for the graph of a circle, right? You need to understand how to do those high level problems, right? The graph of a circle problems where you need to complete the square, you know what I'm talking about, you know, those are kind of tough for a lot of students. You have to get them, right? That's how you really improve your score. So, you know, self-awareness and understanding that, you know what, I just don't know this, right? And I'm not perfect either. I probably messed up 50 million times doing this YouTube video, whatever, right? That's part of the process. Hopefully I'll get better. Hopefully I'll improve going forward. So I think the last point and my most powerful point is that if you accept that you are not perfect, and we all are not perfect, then you have a much better chance of analyzing where you're making mistakes and how you can improve them. All right, guys, hopefully this wasn't too much for you. I tried to just lay it out there for everyone so they can understand what I'm trying to say here. This was a little bit of a tough video in many respects, but at the end of the day, bad news doesn't get better with age. So what you need to do is take that bad news and run with it and improve. I implore all of you to reach for the highest scores you can possibly get. I know you can improve. I've seen everyone do it. All right, guys, that said, I'm Nick the Tutor. Thanks for watching, and I'll check you guys next week. I'm out. Peace.